Ohioans could face a controversial ballot amendment this year in November, one that would reportedly enshrine abortion on demand in the state and in some instances make it impossible for parents to protect their children. But ahead of November, a special election is taking place in August that could weaken the chances of this pro-abortion amendment gaining enough support. At this moment, according to Ohio law, proposed amendments to the Constitution need a simple majority of the vote, 50%, to be added to the Constitution. For this reason, amendments to the Ohio Constitution have been successful many times in the past. But on August 8th, Ohioans can vote to raise the threshold of support to a supermajority of 60%. Early voting for this special election started this week. Amy Natoce of Protect Women Ohio joins us now to tell us more about what's happening in the Buckeye State. Amy, thanks for being here. I want to start by asking you if you could explain what you're hoping will happen this August and why you're telling Ohioans that they should vote in this August election now ahead of Election Day in November.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, Prudence. So like you mentioned, early voting started this week in Ohio on what is called Issue 1, and that would raise the threshold for passing constitutional amendments from 50% plus 1 to 60%. So Ohio is actually a relatively unique state. We're one of only 18 states that allows for constitutional amendments by initiative petition. And of those 18 states, half of them have enhanced requirements for passing amendments. So Ohio has relatively weak standards for passing constitutional amendments, which leaves us vulnerable to out-of-state special interest groups that try to buy their way in. And that's exactly what the ACLU and Planned Parenthood are trying to do this November. So we're really working hard to educate Ohioans and get out the vote to pass Issue 1 this August, and then working to defeat the ACLU's abortion amendment come November.
I see. And Amy, do you think that raising the threshold of support to add a constitutional amendment, this strategy, is going to make a difference come November? What does the composition in the state look like now? Do you think this is going to make a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a whole, Ohio's Constitution deserves more protections, not just from a pro-life standpoint, but across the board. The business community is in favor of raising the threshold. The Second Amendment community is in favor of it. There's a broad base of support that really wants to make sure our Constitution is protected from out-of-state special interest groups that all too often think they can come in here with truckloads of money and buy their way into the Constitution. So I think as time goes on and we move past the August election, Ohioans will realize how dangerous this November abortion amendment is. It completely strips parents of their rights to help their kids through difficult decisions, like during the pregnancy to term, and it eliminates health and safety protections for the unborn and women. And so once Ohioans know what's in this amendment, we're very hopeful that they'll vote it down in November.
Sure, and I want to talk more about that November amendment that could be on the ballot. Could you explain exactly what it contains? I understand it doesn't only impact the abortion issue, but also the transgender issue and others having to do with the family.
That's right. So this is one of the most extreme and dangerous amendments we've ever seen in Ohio. So it would completely wipe out parental consent and notification requirements so that minors can obtain abortions and even sex change procedures without their parents knowing about it or giving their consent. It would also allow for painful late-term abortions all the way up until birth. And it even gets rid of common sense health and safety protections that we currently have in place for women who do undergo abortions in Ohio. For example, we have things like hospital admitting privileges for abortion clinics, and clinics have to be within a certain distance from a hospital in case there were to be an emergency during an abortion. Those types of protections would be eliminated. So we're talking about putting women at risk, the unborn, and parental rights.
It does sound extremely dangerous. And you've mentioned that from your perspective, special interest groups are buying their way into your state. So I want to ask you, do any Ohioans support this? It's been reported that the ACLU actually hired paid signature collectors to come in from out of state to garner support. They've gathered more than 700,000 signatures. So could you share more details on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the ACLU did bring in paid signature gatherers from out of state. And the thing is the ACLU and their signature gatherers weren't even being honest with Ohioans when collecting these signatures. They were telling Ohioans that this would do things like bring back Roe v. Wade, that it would overturn Dobbs, that this was simply about a woman's health and her right to choose. And we know that that couldn't be further from the truth. They left out the fact that this attacks parents and families, that this allows painful late-term abortions, and that it puts women's health at risk. So the fact that they gathered these signatures with lies is highly concerning. And that's why we've been going directly to Ohioans with advertisements and by going door to door every single day to really bring the facts to voters and make sure that they're well informed going into November.
Yeah, it's very important. Amy, it's been so helpful talking to you about all of this. Before I let you go, is there anything else our viewers, especially in Ohio, should know?
Yeah, absolutely. Early voting started yesterday in Ohio. So we have 28 days of early voting for this August election.
Right.
So it's really important that everybody makes a plan to get out and vote early in person or absentee by mail, and just really spread the word about August and November. People can visit protectwomenohio.com to read up on the amendment and get resources to share with their family members and friends and church goers, and just really make sure everybody knows what's on the line this August and November.
Absolutely. Well, we are sending prayers to the state of Ohio. Amy Natoce of Protect Women Ohio, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much.